Welcome back, dear listeners, where we unravel the most perplexing mysteries. Today, we journey to Nantong, Jiangsu Province, to recount a chilling tale that baffled seasoned investigators for months. It's a story of beauty, brutality, and the single, crimson clue that ultimately brought a cold-blooded killer to justice. Our story begins on a tranquil summer morning, July 21, 2010. Mrs. Chow, a resident of Tongzhou district, woke early, as was her custom, for a refreshing walk and exercise. Her usual routine included a stop at her dear friend Tran Tu Hoa's foot massage parlor. Tu Hoa, a vibrant and lovely 29-year-old, was the proprietor of this small establishment, having opened it in August 2009. Every morning, the two women would meet and stroll along the nearby lake, sharing pleasantries and the quiet camaraderie of friendship. But this morning, Tu Hoa was nowhere to be found. Mrs. Chow waited patiently, then grew increasingly restless. Perhaps Tu Hoa had worked late and overslept, she mused, pushing open the slightly ajar door. Inside, the lights were on, but an unsettling silence hung in the air. Mrs. Chow called out her friend's name, venturing deeper into the parlor. With each step, a cold dread crept over her as she noticed dark, ominous stains on the floor. And then, a sight that would forever haunt her nightmares, Tu Hoa lay motionless on a sofa, engulfed in a pool of her own blood. Terror seized Mrs. Chow. She stumbled out of the parlor, her screams piercing the morning calm, alerting the neighbors. Within moments, a crowd had gathered, their hushed whispers mingling with Mrs. Chow's distraught retelling of the horror. A call was made to the Nantong Public Security Bureau, and like a swift current, the investigative team was dispatched. 10 minutes later, the scene was a hive of activity. Police cordoned off the area, pushing back the throng of curious onlookers, and the meticulous work of solving a brutal murder began. The investigative team split into 3 groups, one to interview witnesses, another to scour the vicinity for suspects and clues, and the third to meticulously analyze the crime scene. Forensic specialists arrived promptly, their grim task of examining Tu Hoa's body commencing without delay. Tu Hoa, a divorcee with a 5-year-old son living with his father, had only recently established her small foot massage parlor. The modest kiosk, divided into a business area and a private living space, now bore witness to her tragic end. She lay prone in the main room, near a sofa usually reserved for waiting clients, her white t-shirt saturated with blood, light blue jeans still intact. The lack of disarray in her clothing suggested no sexual assault, narrowing the potential motives. The autopsy report painted a gruesome picture. Bruises on Tu Hoa's neck indicated she had been choked, but this wasn't the fatal blow. The true horror lay in the shattered skull and exposed brain tissue, a result of a savage blow to the back of her head. Her right hand was broken, a testament to her desperate struggle, and numerous bruises, particularly on her back, spoke of a brutal assault. Blood spattered on the walls and floor, and overturned furniture, further confirmed the fierce struggle between Tu Hoa and her assailant. The police theorized a scenario: the killer entered, an argument erupted, leading to a violent confrontation. The weapon, a 73 centimeters long, 3.5 centimeters diameter wooden stick, lay hidden beneath a sofa, covered in blood. This wasn't a tool from the parlor, it was brought by the killer, indicating premeditation and a chilling intent. Such brutality, coupled with the foresight to bring a weapon, suggested a deep-seated animosity or a ruthless nature. After the murder, the perpetrator ransacked the premises for valuables before fleeing through the main door. Near the entrance, by the cashier's counter, a bloody footprint stood out. It wasn't Tu Hoa's. It belonged to the killer, perhaps left in a frantic escape. From this single print, investigators deduced the suspect was a male, roughly 25 to 30 years old, 1.70 to 1.75 meters tall, and slender. The presence of only one set of footprints confirmed a lone assailant. The cashier's drawer, where Chiu Hoa kept her cash and bank cards, was empty. This strongly suggested robbery as a primary motive. A laptop, usually on the counter, was found on the floor below. Initially, police wondered if the killer intended to steal it but found it too cumbersome. However, a closer look revealed a small drawer behind the laptop's original position. The killer had likely moved the laptop to access the cash drawer, inadvertently leaving a crucial piece of evidence. On that very laptop, a bloody fingerprint was discovered. It didn't belong to Chiu Hoa. This was it, the killer's fingerprint. Why would a meticulous killer leave such a damning clue? The police theorized that his bloody gloves, slick with the victim's blood, must have slipped off as he moved the laptop, unknowingly leaving his mark. This was a goldmine of evidence, a direct link to the murderer. But the excitement was short-lived. A cross-reference with the National Criminal Database yielded no matches. The killer was an unknown, a ghost in the system, likely a first-time offender. The investigation had hit a wall. An emergency meeting was called. With sexual assault ruled out, the focus narrowed to robbery or personal vendetta. Given the stolen valuables, robbery seemed plausible. However, the extreme violence hinted at a deeper, personal motive. Perhaps it was a deadly combination of both, a personal conflict escalating into murder, followed by opportunistic theft. But who was this phantom killer? Did he know Chiu Hoa? The absence of security cameras at Chiu Hoa's parlor and surrounding businesses further complicated matters. The investigative teams fanned out once more. One group canvassed the neighborhood, seeking anyone who might have heard or seen anything unusual on the night of the murder, particularly focusing on men matching the suspect's description. The other delved into Chiu Hoa's social circles, searching for any recent conflicts. The parlor's location on a bustling national highway, surrounded by tens of thousands of residents and migrant workers, made the search for a suspect akin to finding a needle in a haystack. Nearby businesses, a closed clothing store, and a temporarily shut hair salon, offered no leads. Chiu Hoa's social life was remarkably simple. Recently divorced and living alone, she had no current boyfriend, and most of her interactions were with clients, strangers. Neighbors described her as kind, outgoing, and never one to instigate conflict. Her beauty, however, attracted many admirers, especially after her divorce. Police wondered if a rejected suitor, fueled by resentment, could be the killer. They meticulously investigated nearly 400 individuals who had recently contacted Chiu Hoa. A daunting task, but one that yielded no concrete suspects. Most were clients with solid alibis for the night of the murder. Those initially suspected were quickly cleared after their fingerprints didn't match the one found at the scene. After more than a day of relentless investigation, the trail went cold. Desperation began to set in, but the police refused to give up. They revisited every detail, every hypothesis. The forensic report's estimated time of death, between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m., was critical. At that hour, the parlor would have been closed, suggesting the killer was likely someone Chiu Hoa knew well enough to admit late at night. Then, a new lead emerged, a flicker of hope. Chiu Hoa's ex-husband, Lu Chang, had invested 40,000 yuan in her parlor when it opened in August 2009. He had repeatedly pressed her for returns, but Chiu Hoa insisted the business wasn't profitable enough to repay him. Could this financial dispute have escalated into murder? Lu Chang became the prime suspect. During questioning, he conspicuously omitted any mention of the 40,000 yuan investment. As her ex-husband, Chiu Hoa would likely not have been wary of his presence late at night. Lu Chang was brought in for further questioning. He admitted to the investment, a 50-50 partnership with profit sharing. But after months of unfulfilled promises and the recent bankruptcy of his own company, he had desperately sought the return of his capital. Tu Hoa, however, refused, claiming she didn't have the money. Lu Chang acknowledged the financial tension but vehemently denied any involvement in Tu Hoa's death. More importantly, he had a solid alibi. He was at a relative's wedding in Chongchuan district on July 20th, returning home only on the evening of July 21st. Verification confirmed his story. And finally, his fingerprints did not match those found at the crime scene. Lu Chang was cleared, and the investigation was back to square one. The stolen bank cards remained a puzzle. 2 days had passed, and no transactions had been made from Tu Hoa's account. Had the killer not had a chance to use them, or was he afraid of being caught? A review of recent transactions revealed a crucial detail: a withdrawal made just before the murder. ATM surveillance footage became the next key. The video showed Tu Hoa making the withdrawal, seemingly at ease. But in the corner of the frame, a shadowy figure of a man was visible, watching her. After Tu Hoa completed her transaction, he swiftly departed on an electric bicycle. This was approximately 2 hours before Tu Hoa's murder. Could this man on the electric bicycle be their suspect? Detectives meticulously collected all surveillance footage along the route from the ATM to Tu Hoa's home. Another video confirmed it. The man on the electric bicycle was indeed heading towards Tu Hoa's parlor. The initial theory: he had witnessed Tu Hoa withdrawing money, then followed her, seeking an opportunity to rob her. However, another surveillance camera, this time from a shopping mall, captured the same man. But in this footage, he was shopping with Tu Hoa. This shattered the initial assumption. The man and Tu Hoa clearly knew each other. Further investigation revealed that the electric bicycle he was riding belonged to Tu Hoa. The robbery plot seemed less likely now. The surveillance footage undeniably showed a connection between the man and Tu Hoa. He had accompanied her to withdraw money and then to shop, just hours before her death. Who was this man? Was he connected to the murder? Even if not directly involved, his presence so close to the time of the murder was highly suspicious. Identifying him became the top priority. A breakthrough came quickly. A clear shot from the shopping mall camera allowed police to identify the man and, after a swift investigation, locate his workplace. He was Lu Kuan, a 30-year-old employee of a machinery maintenance company. Kuan worked at the company's headquarters in Wuxi but had been temporarily dispatched to the Nantong branch for 2 weeks to assist with technology transfer. When police arrived at the Tongzhou branch, the manager confirmed Kuan's temporary assignment. However, the manager also stated that Kuan had abruptly informed them that the headquarters required his immediate return for urgent work and had left Tongzhou on July 21st. A team was immediately dispatched to Wuxi. At the headquarters, a different story emerged. The Wuxi manager stated that Kuan's assignment in Tongzhou was not yet complete, and he had recently called in to request a week of sudden leave for personal reasons. This discrepancy immediately raised red flags for the police. Furthermore, Kuan's departure from Tongzhou coincided precisely with the time of the murder. What had happened on the night of July 20th that had sent Kuan fleeing Tongzhou? Kuan's erratic behavior screamed suspicion. The police now strongly believed he was Tu Hoa's killer, fleeing after the act. A team was sent to Kuan's hometown in Hunan, and he was swiftly brought in for questioning. His nervousness during the interrogation only solidified the police's suspicions. This had to be their killer. But the investigation took another unexpected turn, leaving the police profoundly disappointed. Kuan vehemently denied any involvement in Tu Hoa's murder. He calmly explained that on the afternoon of August 20th, note, the document has a typo and should be July 20th, he had visited Tu Hoa's massage parlor. He was immediately taken by her youth and beauty. As she massaged his feet, they chatted easily, and a connection formed. Charmed by her and noting the busy parlor, Kun lingered all afternoon. He then invited Tu Hoa to dinner, and she readily accepted. They dined, then went for coffee, until past 9 p.m. As they passed an ATM, Tu Hoa mentioned needing to withdraw money for parlor supplies. After her withdrawal, they went shopping at a mall. Around 11 p.m., Kun drove Tu Hoa home on her electric bicycle. Since it was Tu Hoa's bike, Kun then walked back to his company dormitory. They had made plans for breakfast the next morning, so on July 21st, Kun returned to the parlor. That's when he saw police cars and overheard the grim news that Tu Hoa had been murdered. Panicked, knowing he had been with her so late, and fearing implication, he rushed back to Hunan. The police verified Kuan's alibi. Fellow dormitory workers and surveillance footage from the company dorm confirmed his return at 10:50 p.m. on July 20th and his presence there until 7 a.m. the next morning. Tu Hoa's murder, however, occurred between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. Kun simply did not have enough time to commit the crime. A final check of his fingerprints against the bloody print from the crime scene confirmed he was not their man. Kun was cleared, and the case was back to the drawing board, 2 months passing without a single new lead. The pressure on the police was immense. The investigation had reached a dead end. The single bloody fingerprint, the only tangible clue, had led nowhere. Just as hope began to dwindle, the image investigation team delivered a shocking piece of news, a tiny detail that had been overlooked, yet held the key to unlocking the mystery. In one corner of a surveillance camera, a man on a bicycle was captured. Initially dismissed as an ordinary sight, a closer look revealed something profoundly unusual. The man was wearing white gloves. It was summer, oppressively hot, and nearly 11 p.m., hardly weather for gloves, certainly not to block the sun. Why was he wearing them? Then, another camera, at 12:15 a.m., showed the same cyclist. This time, he was cycling fast, and the white gloves were gone. He was seen entering the crime scene area and leaving at a time perfectly consistent with the murder. Other inconsistencies in his behavior further cemented police suspicion. They knew Tu Hoa had struggled fiercely with her attacker, but only partial fingerprints had been found. This implied the killer had been wearing gloves, a detail now eerily consistent with the mysterious cyclist. The pieces were starting to fit, and the suspicious cyclist became the prime focus. Police meticulously tracked the cyclist's movements through various surveillance cameras. After leaving the crime scene, he cycled erratically before vanishing at a crossroads. The relentless pursuit finally paid off. His identity was revealed: Li Feng, 25 years old, from Tongzhou District, Nantong. He was currently working in Jinhua City, Zhejiang Province. Li Feng was a known gambling addict, recently fired for his disorganized work habits. He had returned home for a few days, then abruptly left for Jinhua. Nantong police, working with their Jinhua counterparts, quickly apprehended him. Li Feng was now the primary suspect. On October 1, 2000, note, the document has a typo and should be 2010, Li Feng was extradited back to Nantong. At the police station, his fingerprints were taken and compared to the bloody print from the crime scene. The match was undeniable. Initially, Li Feng clung to his denials, claiming he didn't know Tu Hoa and had no connection to the murder. But faced with the unwavering questions of the investigators and the irrefutable evidence, Li Feng finally broke, bowing his head and confessing to the horrifying truth. The night of July 20th began with Li Feng losing all his money in a gambling spree. Around 10 p.m., he roamed the streets, eyes peeled for a target, specifically young women walking alone at night, whom he believed would be easy prey. He searched for a long time, fruitlessly. His stomach growling, he stopped at a convenience store for a bread and, chillingly, a pair of gloves. After eating, he donned the gloves and resumed his predatory hunt. By now, it was almost 11 p.m. The streets were deserted, houses dark, and disappointment began to set in. He was about to head home when, by chance, he spotted Tu Hoa's massage parlor, a lone beacon of light on the national highway. She had likely just returned with Lu Kuan. Through the window, Li Feng saw her, a young woman, alone, tidying up. She was the perfect target. He stopped his bike, surveying the quiet surroundings. No one was in sight, the time was ripe. He started towards the parlor, then realized he had no weapon. He quickly found a wooden stick nearby. Armed, Li Feng entered Tu Hoa's parlor. Tu Hoa, just finishing her tidying and about to close for the night, was startled by his sudden intrusion. She started to cry out, but Li Feng lunged, seizing her, and dragging her deeper into the shop, his hands clamped around her throat. Tu Hoa struggled, briefly breaking free, trying to run for help. But Li Feng caught her, shoving her to the ground. Then, with the wooden stick he had prepared, he began to bludgeon her head and body relentlessly. He only stopped when Tu Hoa lay lifeless. He flung the stick aside and began his search for valuables. With his heinous act complete, Li Feng pulled the door shut, mounted his bicycle, and began his journey home. His gloves, soaked with Tu Hoa's blood, were removed and stuffed into a black bag. On his way, he casually tossed the bag into a roadside trash can. He arrived home, ate dinner, and then, as if nothing had happened, drifted into sleep. The next morning, he calmly informed his parents he was returning to the city for work, leaving them completely unsuspecting. Li Feng later confessed that he only managed to steal just over 500 yuan in cash. He couldn't access the bank cards, not knowing the pins, and eventually threw them into a river. In June 2011, Li Feng was sentenced to death for intentional murder and robbery. His sentence was to be carried out 6 months after his detention. This case chillingly illustrates a premeditated robbery that spiraled into murder. What truly horrified investigators was Li Feng's utter lack of remorse or fear after taking a life. It revealed a cold, callous nature, a man who, unwilling to work for his money, chose to brutally extinguish an innocent life. The death penalty was a fitting punishment for such a heinous crime. This tragic case serves as a stark reminder to always be vigilant, especially when alone. Had Tu Hoa been just a little more cautious, perhaps this heartbreaking incident could have been averted. The greatest challenge for the police was Li Feng's random selection of a victim and his meticulous preparation. Coupled with the minimal clues left at the scene, the investigation was fraught with difficulty. But in the end, the truth always emerges. Li Feng, no matter how clever his deception, was ultimately brought to justice for his crimes. And so concludes another gripping tale from New Qian. What are your thoughts on this case? Share them in the comments below, let's discuss. And if this is your first time joining us, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Until next time.